Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee, Eiley Cotto, committee staff. Senate Bill 5339 relates to providing free school meals for all. To provide some background, the National School Lunch Program and the School Breakfast Program are federally assisted meal programs that are subsidized by the USDA, the state, and student co-pays based on income. There is a per meal reimbursement rate set at the federal level that varies depending on the type of meal, like breakfast or lunch, and whether it is free, reduced price, or paid by the student. The bill before you makes one breakfast and one lunch during each school day to any student who requests a meal part of the program of basic education. The bill allows OSPI to exempt school districts from this requirement until the 25-26 school year if the school district shows good cause why they cannot comply. To maximize federal funding, the bill requires school districts to continue collecting meal applications where applicable and run direct certification for free meals. OSPI must reimburse school districts that participate in the federal meals program on a per meal reimbursement basis for meals that are not already reimbursed at the free rate. The additional state reimbursement amount must be the difference between the USDA's free rate and the paid rate. Finally, the bill provides funding stability provisions for the Learning Assistance Program and the National Board Certified Teacher Bonus in the 24-25 and 25-26 school years, since that funding may be based on free and reduced price meal eligibility. The bill directs OSPI to create a work group to identify and examine actual and potential impacts to education programs funded by the state and to provide recommendations for avoiding or mitigating impacts by June 30th, 2024. A fiscal note is not yet available. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Eiley. Are any questions for Eiley? Nope. And so we'll go right into our first, oh, I'm so sorry. I don't know, we're jumping in. Senator Nobles, would you please speak to your bill?
Yes, thank you, Chair Wellman and members of the committee. Before I even introduce myself, I would like to start with a quote from my son this week, actually last week, Thursday. He texted me at about 5, couple hours before his soccer practice, and he said, "Could you put more money in my lunch account, and who is taking me to soccer practice?" And my son is 11 years old. And for the record, I'm Senator Tawana Nobles. I represent the 28th Legislative District, and I feel so honored to talk about an issue that impacts our family, that impacts so many of our students and families across Washington State. And we've been working on this issue and talking about this potential legislation since the interim. And so it's really great to know that today we get to hear from community and really dive into this bill with the ambition of passing this into law this year. Student success cannot be limited by a family's ability to afford food. And as it relates to this legislation, I've heard people say, well, why are we letting families who can actually afford it off the hook? Why can't they just pay? And, you know, one, we're not in other families' households or their pockets. And just because, like a business, you're making, you're generating some type of revenue doesn't mean that you're doing more than breaking even. We don't know what type of financial circumstances families are facing. And at the end of the day, who we're talking about are students. We do want to let students off the hook. We don't want them to be shamed. We don't want them to be overburdened or embarrassed at school. They should be off the hook, especially when it comes to adult issues. And they also shouldn't be responsible for when families sometimes, and this is a real scenario, have pride or ego. They don't want to ask for help. I'm struggling and I need help and I simply don't want to ask for help. Or families like ours where we absolutely are in a position now to afford, and trust me, many years we could not afford school lunch and we were receiving free lunch, and then we might go to reduced lunch, and when I was staying home we were back to free lunch. And so we feel fortunate that now we can afford it, and yet still I get emails that say your child's account is negative $13, and then I have to rush on the app and try to respond before my son will text me, Mom, put more money on my lunch account. And so every family's circumstance is different, but we have an opportunity as a state to stop piecemealing this solution and provide free, full meals to each and every one of our students who need it or not. As a mom and a former educator, I know that hunger can be a barrier to education, and students can't learn when they're hungry. And food is such an important part of our culture. We celebrate around food, we exchange culture around food, and food is simply a basic need. Universal meals would ensure that all of Washington's more than 1 million students can receive a healthy breakfast and lunch at school at no out-of-pocket cost every single day, including the 370,000 students who currently, after 2 years of free meals, have to start paying again for breakfast and lunch at their school. The need is there, and during the pandemic, when the federal government provided for free meals for all students, 30 million more of our students were served, 30 more meals were served to Washington students. I also want to share that I sit in this committee and I listen to a lot of educational solutions and ways that we can help to, as we just heard, build a workforce, right? Make sure that we have our leaders for today prepared to continue to be leaders for tomorrow. And I had a conversation last week with a friend of mine, and when we started talking about investments, we also shared what type of investment can Washington State make today to ensure that we do have a thriving workforce tomorrow. And if we sat down and started working backwards, and we do that a lot in this committee, my colleagues are so brilliant, we try to think about where we're trying to be, for example, with a thriving workforce and how many credentialed individuals that will take. And if we work backwards to look at what are the barriers and burdens to getting there, food insecurity is one of them. And making sure that we're feeding our students and that they're prepared for their school day each and every day is one way that we can get to that thriving workforce. It's a way that we can achieve many of our goals in this state. So even after federal universal meals went away, the demand for school meals still remains. Free school meals for students improves efficiency both at the cafeteria line and for school and district staff. And when everyone can eat as a part of the school day, meals are normalized and not stigmatized. No one has to worry about getting free lunch. No one has to worry about having a debt removed or being in debt. And there is no more cause for shame for students to feel for using the existing free and lunch price lunch program. Free school meals is also a significant cost savings for families who are already navigating the rising costs of groceries and affordability in general. I've also seen people comment about, well, providing free meals takes away an opportunity for families to have a shared value of preparing meals together and sending meals to school with their students. I know for our family, my children value consistency, including in their meals. In our family, my own children value choice. Yes, they can make a lunch at home, and they also, for whatever reason, like me, really love school lunch and breakfast. And so I would say that my children value school lunch. And so we're not removing values from families, but we're allowing families to show their values in ways that are meaningful to them. And I also want it to be clear that the legislature, I'm still fairly new. This is my third session, and I know my colleagues have done tremendous work, and I want to thank you. Tremendous work to try to create solutions. In 2018, the Breakfast After the Bell program was implemented. In 2020, we got more schools on board to participate in the USDA Community Eligibility Program, or CEP. And as recently as last year, we funded more schools as part of that program. This legislation supports those previous efforts towards equity. But as I said earlier, we have to stop piecemealing the solution and really go hard for our students here in Washington State. Breakfast After the Bell implementation is significantly easier when everyone can eat for free. And the success of the CEP demonstrates that free school meals increase school meal participation, especially at breakfast. And we all say it's one of the most important meals of the day. So this added participation means more funding, which allows school districts to further invest in their school meals program, improving equipment and food quality. Access to nutritional food is a key component to the health and well-being of our children. To advance students' chances at success, all of us, because sometimes we pass legislation and we're talking about they and them, but this is my family too. And this is we. And we get to ensure that our students' attention will be on their education and not where their next meal will be coming from. So I just want to thank everyone who's testifying today, and I'm going to zip it so we can get through all the testifiers. And I'm happy to answer any questions. And again, I just want to thank my colleagues who for years have been working really hard around this issue and trying to make sure that all of our students can eat and feel healthy and feel supported in our schools. So again, thank you, Chair Chair. Thank you to my colleagues, and thank you to everyone who shares in the importance that all of our students should eat free and at our schools in Washington State.
Thank you so much. Call the first panel, please.
Wow. Having a daughter that for 2 weeks didn't eat because she didn't know where to put her card. She had the money, but she didn't know how to get the food. And to know that for 2 weeks she went along with that, and young people that are wearing green stickers that identify them as owing, and they get a sandwich that looks very different than the other meal. Those are the things and the practices I think we're trying to stop. So with that, thank you for your commentary. And in person, we have Michael Moran, Mitch Denning, and Logan Andres, please.
Michael, begin whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Senator Nobles, again, thank you for introducing your bill. For the record, I'm Michael Moran. I'm here on behalf of Chairman Jared Erickson and the Confederated of the Colville Reservation. Why is this bill important to the Colville tribes? Well, we're in 22 different school districts in Eastern Washington. We have 25% of our native population in Spokane County. We have income levels that go from poverty to okay. The fact is, and I think for those of us of a certain age, providing school meals was at a time part of the school's infrastructure. Since the 40 years since I was a Senate intern here in 1983, we have been hacking away at school meals and hunger and food insecurity. I've come before you on behalf of Second Harvest and Food Lifeline and the Colville tribes. Meals in a rapidly mobile population where school now runs from 6:30 in the morning till 7 p.m. at night with practice and other activities, it's just a no-brainer. The bill makes sense. It's another piece of the puzzle, another piece of the pie, please, of what we're doing today. Again, thank you. More backpacks, less bootstrapping. Thanks again.
Thank you so much, Mitch. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Chairwoman and Ranking Member Hawkins and members of the committee. Mitch Denning, representing WMOA, the Maintenance and Operation Administrators, is one of our top priorities. And I want to thank Senator Nobles for bringing this forward because we've been working with you on these issues now for quite a bit of time. This bill, when passed and fully funded, would help accelerate learning and family food security, just as she's pointed out. Ultimately, it would reduce child hunger and poverty. And there can't be a greater issue than that issue. Please move this bill forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Logan, good to see you.
Good to see you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. For the record, Logan Andres, in strong support of Senate Bill 5339 for the Washington State School Directors Association. I'm excited to share that passing this bill is one of the top priorities of school directors this session. Based on a variety of reasons, including the stigma associated with being identified as part of the free and reduced price lunch program, students go hungry every day in our state. This bill's commitment to funding all meals at no cost to students would help to ensure that students are in class ready to learn instead of wondering when their next meal is going to arrive. Using federal funds, we've seen school districts implement this well during the first 2 years of the COVID pandemic, and during that time they noticed that students were eating more, and that's exactly what you'll see if you pass this bill. Students, families, and communities from across the state are relying on you to vote yes on Senate Bill 5339. Thank you.
Thank you very much. No question, not seeing any questions. We'll go to our next panel.
All right, our next panel is remote. Nikki Lockwood, Andrea Davis, and Ronnie Cook. And while we're pulling them up, oh, there they are. Ben Mitchell, Molly Groh, and Mikhail Chernisky can be ready to present up front.
And Nikki, begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. For the record, I'm Nikki Lockwood, School Director from Spokane Public Schools, here in strong support of Senate Bill 5339 on behalf of WASDA as well. And it's also a legislative priority for my school district. School districts around the state kept foods fed during the pandemic. Spokane Public Schools seamlessly continued feeding all our kids after the 2 years of the pandemic due to the CEP funding changes. So thank you. This has benefited us in so many ways as our community struggles with a lot of complex issues coming out of the pandemic, which affect our students. One thing that is not a struggle is accessing nutritious food at school. We simply have less barriers and more kids eating food. No applications waiting to be approved before kids can eat free, no phone calls for forgotten lunches or lunch money, no cash to be handled, no account balances for staff to address, and our nutrition services are breaking even. Please support this bill so that this can be a reality for students statewide. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Andrea, welcome.
Hello there. Good afternoon. My name is Andrea Davis with Coordinated Care, testified in support of this bill. I want to thank the bill sponsor, Senator Nobles, for her leadership and advocacy around food insecurity and hunger issues. Coordinated Care is a managed care plan that serves nearly 300,000 people across the state through the Apple Health Medicaid program, as well as serving all the children and youth in the child welfare system. And we're the largest carrier on the state-based exchange. We know so much of what impacts someone's overall health and wellness goes beyond seeing a doctor or filling a prescription. The social determinants of health, such as access to healthy food, is one of our top priorities because we believe it is foundational to health and well-being. Food is medicine, and you can't be healthy if you aren't hungry. At Coordinated Care, we're deeply committed to addressing hunger and food insecurity. Through our community giving program, last year we provided over $1.2 million to food agency partners across the state in support of hunger relief programs. We know that children cannot learn if they're not hungry, and we know that the stigma around free and reduced lunch is a big issue, as you've heard. We believe this bill addresses this important issue. Providing healthy school meals for children is a critical step forward, and for these reasons, we support this legislation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And finally, Ronnie.
Hello, I'm Ronnie Cook, special education teacher for students with significant autism at Harbor Point and Mukilteo. I am speaking in support of Senate Bill 5339. I was a child of working poor parents. We didn't always have food. I was very aware of this difference. I see families experiencing the same hardship in my school today. My program is highly specialized and students are bused from all over the district. My school is only one of two in the Mukilteo School District that doesn't qualify for the community eligibility provision. Families I work with have significant expenses related to their child's disability and would receive school meals through CEP at their home schools. If this bill passes, students will have breakfast and lunch no matter what school they attend or program they need. This bill creates a work group to identify impacts on education programs funded by the state. We have seen the impact of this in our district because in our schools that did qualify for the CEP, we do not have documentation to waive other fees for families since they are not required to submit free reduced meal applications. We need to figure out how to address those issues and ensure that we have staff to feed all of the students when this bill passes.
Thank you.
In conclusion, I ask you to support Senate Bill 5339.
Thank you very much, Ronnie. We'll go right to Ben.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Ben Mitchell, Director of Policy and Advocacy at the Foundation for Tacoma Students, testifying today in support of Senate Bill 5339. Making universal free meals permanent in Washington will be a key part of our state's toolkit to not only fight hunger, but also build a high-achieving K-12 system. As you've heard from the other testifiers, this program will benefit low-income households who have easier access to nutritious food. It'll help middle-class families who are just above the current eligibility threshold, and it'll reduce stigma by letting everyone eat together as equals. I also want to highlight research that shows the program of universal meals promotes a multitude of school and community-wide benefits. Studies have shown that school meals improve academic performance among the student body, reduce absenteeism, improve perceptions among students of the school environment, as well as reduce suspension rates, household spending on groceries, improve dietary quality at home, and even grocery store prices throughout a local area. Given what we already know, the immense benefits of this program makes the return on this investment far exceeds its cost. We urge your support for this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Molly, welcome.
Good afternoon. Thank you, committee members. Thank you, Senator Nobles, for sponsoring this bill and others on the committee. I am Dr. Molly Groh, a pediatrician and parent in the 46th District in Seattle, and I'm here on behalf of the Washington chapter of the American Academy of Pediatrics in support of this bill. And I want to share that our state pediatricians have made this a top 3 priority for our legislative session advocacy. We're here today as part of Advocacy Day, and this is one of the bills that we are in favor of as a top 3 priority. And that's the very clear reason for that is because child health hunger is a serious
problem for health, and we're seeing, child hunger results in serious health problems, as you shared, Senator Nobles, and also in school performance. And we're in support of this approach because half of children in our state are eligible or in families that are needing food assistance. So we know that this is an effective way to reach those children. School meals are one of the most effective ways. And we wanted to make sure that we saw free school meals in particular to reduce that stigma, to have higher school meal participation, and to reduce the shame of poverty, as you stated. So we think this is a big win across multiple reasons, and let's make sure all of our children are well fed with healthy, nutritious school meals. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mikhail.
Hi, folks. Hi, folks. Chair Wellman and members of the committee. There we go. My name is Mikhail Chernisky, and I'm here on behalf of the Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction in support of this bill. I'll keep it brief here. I just want to touch on two things. One is that we hear often about the federal income thresholds, that you hear that the families above that have to pay for school meals. But I don't know if everybody knows what that is. So for a family of four, a family of two working adults with two kids, that income is $52,000 a year. So a family making any more than that, they have to pay for meals. I'll quickly touch just on another thing of in the National School Lunch Program, food has to be produced domestically, and a considerable amount of that food is produced right here in Washington. So this is also great for Washington State. Practically all of our dairy in Washington schools comes here, and I bet a good portion of the apples as well. So you've heard it a number of times, hungry kids can't learn, and so we urge your support.
Thank you very much. And we'll go to our next panel.
Next panel is remote, and that is Jason Perrins, Jennifer Hine-Withy, Hannah Ordos, and Jake Dingman. And if you could turn your cameras on and be in gallery view, you'll be able to see the timer and whoever pops up.
And I have
There we go, there's Jason.
Jason, are you there? Is that Jason?
I'm here.
Oh, please.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Thank
Okay.
you. Please begin when you're ready.
Okay, thank you. I'm Jason Perrins, Superintendent of Chewelah School District in the 7th Legislative District. I'm speaking against the Bill 5339 regarding free meals for all students in the state of Washington. I understand and agree with my education colleagues that a hungry child reduces the readiness to learn. This bill does not help in this regard. Parents and teachers are not knocking on my doors asking for food. If parents were knocking on my doors and asking for me to feed their children, we have a whole nother problem, and that would take a whole nother issue to resolve. Most, if not all, families are responsible for clothing and feeding and transporting their children. Those families that struggle are currently supported by free and reduced lunch programs. The role of government is to create independent citizens, not dependent. Give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach him how to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. My concern is a bigger concern than education, is that we're enabling our societies and our communities to rely on the government and not build independent citizens. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And is Jennifer, is that you? Yes. Jennifer, please begin.
Thank you. My name is Jennifer Hine-Withy, and I'm here speaking out against House Bill 5395, or 5339, pardon me. Children are not the responsibility of the state. They are the responsibility of their parents. This includes feeding them. As a parent, I take pride in taking care of my children, and am bothered and frankly insulted when the state decides that they need to insert themselves into my family unit and circumvent a basic parental responsibility, such as feeding my children. We already have systems in place to give assistance to families where food is a hardship, but having a blanket policy that provides breakfast and lunch to every student in the government schools is going way beyond helping low-income families. If a child doesn't know how to use their card, that's not a food problem, that's a training problem. If a child doesn't have money in their account, again, that's a parent problem. And if a child is being shamed because of their sandwich, that's a bullying problem. That's not a food problem. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we'll go to Hannah. Welcome, and begin your testimony when you're ready.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to provide testimony. I am not in support of Bill 5339 for the following reasons. I'm a parent who's had an opportunity to have my children in a school that had abundant amount of resources and lots of funding through donations in its community, but also a parent now of a really small rural community. Providing free lunches to everyone, including those who can afford those lunches. What we experienced during the pandemic when everything became free was a huge reduction in the quality of the food that was provided because now the resources were spread out amongst many, many more students. Nutrition isn't just food in the mouth. So if we want children really to be subsidized in a nutritious way, then we need to make sure that we're not doing things that are going to degrade the quality of the food that we're providing already. So I ask that you go back, you take these things into consideration so that we can truly help the children that are in need of food.
Thank you, Hannah. And we'll go finally to Jake. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Chair Wellman and members of the committee. My name is Jake Dingman. I'm the superintendent of the Oakesdale School District. We have 160 students, preschool to 12th grade, on a single school campus and are located between Spokane and Pullman and Whitman County in the 9th Legislative District. I'm here today to express concerns about Senate Bill 5339, not because we object to free meals for all, but because this bill could have unintended consequences on our meal program. The Oakesdale School District does not operate under the National Breakfast and Lunch Program. The district honors free and reduced lunch pricing using district funds to cover what amounts to be $30,000 a year to our district. Oakesdale would spend at least an additional $30,000 if this bill is adopted as written. For comparison purposes, the $60,000 equates to 1 teacher or 2 support staff or an abundant supply budget for classrooms. I ask for an amendment to the bill that allows districts that do not participate in the federal food program to capture food reimbursement dollars through the already existing monthly enrollment reporting through OSPI. This would allow for the true intention of the bill based on its title to provide free meals to all to be a reality. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for this panel. And now we will go to our next panel.
We have the last 2 panels, so Jody Japp, Karen Brown, and Rebecca Skindry. And then panel number 6 can be looking for Andrea Davis, Kristen Eng, and Tom Siegel. We'll do our wrap-up.
Okay. Jody, when you're there, let me know. We're looking for Jody. Is that you, Jody?
I'm here.
That's Karen. Well, Karen, is that Karen?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is Karen. Karen, just jump in. And we'll go back to Jody.
Oh, thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Karen Brown. I'm Nutrition Services Director for the Franklin Pierce School District. We've been an all CEP district since 2019. And I can tell you that going back to school and not having to do a lot of outreach to the parents, not that that's a bad thing, when they came back after getting free meals for the past 2 years during the pandemic was a godsend. I know that my peers in other districts have been struggling with parent participation, with getting them to put money on their kids' accounts and to help support their children. And I see no problem with all of our state going to universal meals. It's important that kids have food so they can learn. And it's also important that they're not singled out in any way. There are most likely no districts in the state of Washington that single out kids that are free or reduced. But when you get to stand in line with all of your friends, instead of being the one that, you know, is not maybe, it's just heartbreaking to know that some kids are struggling that way. But if you feed all of the kids, then there's no stigma and there never should be. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we'll go back to Jody. Sorry, I skipped you.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, Chair Wellman and members of the committee. My name is Jody Japp, and I actually work in school nutrition in Monroe School District, and I've done so for 20 years. I'm here in support of Senate Bill 5339 because children should never go hungry. And I also cannot imagine that feeding our students during a 7 or 8 hour day at school is not a part of our paramount duty. My district's percentage of free and reduced students is 25 to 30%. So that means 1 of every 4 students is experiencing some kind of food insecurity. 2 of our 9 schools now qualify for CEP funding. These 2 sites are closer to 70% free and reduced. That is 7 out of 10 students, children. And I always wonder how many students and their families are too embarrassed to ask for help. How many students are we missing? Let's end hunger in schools now and pass Senate Bill 5339. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Rebecca, when you're ready, please begin.
Thank you, Madam Chairman and the committee. My name is Rebecca Scrindy. I'm the CEO of the largest emergency food system here in Skagit County. And we did a survey here at our food banks, and I have 3 examples of why we are in support of this bill. One student from Cedar Woolley High School says that this takes the blame and shame away from asking his parents for lunch money that he knows they don't even have. He said if this wasn't passed, he would just have to skip lunch. I'm a family. It's made it possible to know my children will have a good, nutritious meal at school instead of sending them with a pack of saltine crackers because we have barely can afford anything else. The last few years have been so rough. Having free lunches was one less thing that we had to worry about. And a school head nurse who works for a K-5 school, I saw firsthand how hunger affects a child's ability to learn and thrive, and children often end up in my office with headaches and fatigue. My snacks don't go far enough, but I do give them a snack to help their headaches and fatigue go away. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Do you want to wait or do you want to? Okay. So Andrea, please. Andrea went? Okay. Kristen?
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. I'm Kristen Ang, the Policy Engagement Director for Faith Action Network, a multi-faith organization through which over 160 faith communities across Washington State partner for the common good. Our faith communities are often on the front lines helping address poverty, especially hunger. I'm here to testify in strong support of Senate Bill 5339, free school meals for all children. This bill would be a giant step towards ending child hunger. This would end school food stigma, lunch shaming, and lunch debt. This bill would also address learning loss and ensuring the health of our students with healthy meals. This would enable students to focus on their education rather than hunger. Data shows the academic and behavioral benefits of universal free school meals. Studies show math scores go up, exclusionary discipline goes down, and the reliance of food bank services also falls. Other states have already had permanent programs, California and Maine. Colorado passed it overwhelmingly by Republican and Democratic voters. Washington, we can do this too. And when we feed our children, we'll see the multitudes of benefits. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Andrea Davis, you are in the ether, but you need to promote yourself in order for us to hear from you. So just want to let you know that while we're hearing from our next speaker.
Okay. Tom, it's good to see you. I haven't seen you for a while. Please begin your testimony.
Well, thank you very much, Chairman, Shirley Wellman, and members of the committee. I'm Tom Siegel, Superintendent of the Bethel School District. We have 20,000 students here in the district, and I'm in support of SB 5339. It's a matter of fairness, and it's the right thing to do. As is mentioned, it does reduce stigma associated with poverty. And we currently have 30 schools. 24 of them have all free meals for the kids. The other 6 do not. And what's happened in those 6 that still charge for meals is the participation in lunches and breakfasts have significantly declined since the pandemic when everybody was getting free food. Another measure is that the meal debt has increased significantly as well. We've actually had parents call into the kitchen and ask the people there not to feed their children because they can't afford the meals. So in all fairness, it's the right thing to do. It needs to be done. And that was actually in one of our wealthier schools. It's not a poverty school. So this exists throughout the entire district, and it's a real situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. And Andrea?
She had already presented, so.
Yeah, I apologize. I was signed in twice. Just wanted to let you know.
Okay, I thought so. But thank you very much for coming back. And we have a question for staff from Senator Hawkins.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I was wondering if we can, and maybe this was covered during the bill briefing, but if we could just get another refresher on the mechanics of how the funding works in the bill. My understanding in this section 103 is that the OSPI will reimburse the school districts that participate in this national school lunch program. Maybe there's this work group, but do we know on estimate what this would cost the state each year, and would this presumably just be covered through OSPI's agency funds, or would there be an additional appropriation to OSPI likely for something like this?
Yes, so starting with what the bill says is that OSPI must reimburse school districts that participate in the federal meal programs on a per meal reimbursement basis for meals that are not already reimbursed at the free rate. So the additional state reimbursement amount must be the difference between the USDA's free rate and the paid rate. So those federal rates are set by the feds, and it depends on breakfast, lunch. There's a rate for free, for reduced price, and for paid. So it's covering the difference between the paid rate and the free rate so that it would cover the whole free rate. And there is no fiscal note for the bill yet, but there was a decision package by OSPI for this bill. And that decision package estimated a cost of $173 million in the 23-25 biennial budget and around $346 million over the 4 years.
Okay, and then may I, Madam Chair, just as a follow-up, just so I understand, so then presumably is OSPI, and I didn't ask them when they were testifying, is this something they are hoping to cover within their existing agency funds, or with that dollar amount, it would need an additional appropriation built into the budget kind of for this? Would you be able to answer that, Eiley?
It's my understanding there would be additional funding in the budget.
I'm pretty sure.
Okay, and then there's a work group element to the bill that will over time kind of better understand what the true costs are every biennium. Is that right?
I think that the work group is focused on looking at how actual and potential impacts to education programs funded by the state would be impacted, because there's a number of programs that rely on free and reduced priced eligibility to determine other types of funding. So the bill talks about how LAP funding would be stabilized for 2 years, as well as the national board bonus for 2 years. But then I think they're thinking about what would you do beyond that, and potentially other types of programs as well.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yes, Senator Dozier.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Since I haven't had kids in school for a little while, hopefully the sponsor could tell me what is the cost for like breakfast and lunch?
Well, I can tell you that in less than 5 months since the start of school this year, for just 2 children currently in school, I've already paid just over $800.
So how much is it per meal? Is it a set per meal, or do they pick things and then they charge it like if I go to the restaurant? No, okay.
Breakfast and lunch do have a set price.
Okay, just out of curiosity, do you know off the top of your head, is it like $5 for a meal?
I can look it up.
Oh, that's okay. That's fine. You don't have to get that technical. I mean, if I went back when I was in school, I think it was 35 cents. So.
Oh, no, it's like $2 and something. And 3.
Okay, I know it's been a while, okay?
We walked 20 miles in the snow each way.
Yes. And that is the end, concludes our hearing on 5339. And we are at ease and adjourned.
Yeah.
Thank you.